Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing? Before I even begin, just in case someone feels like it needs to be said or if it's unclear, yes, I'm reacting to a Nazi super tank here because that sounds crazy and interesting. That does not mean that the Nazis were good. No, they were evil, stupid, crazy, whatever. But it also doesn't mean, unfortunately, the world is a little bit more nuanced than just like, oh, they're evil, so therefore nothing they ever did was interesting. That's just not true. They certainly were interesting. And so this caught my eye, okay? And I know it's not just me, because this has almost 2 million views. I found and explained link down below, and I just am very curious, okay? In the thumbnail, it was like a freaking gigantic tank. It was like the size of a building. Nazi super tank. Let's go. And it does feel a little bit bad because it's like, I'm not trying to obviously, glorify the Nazis or anything. Everybody knows that. I feel like everybody knows that though, right? Right.
Rumbling across Europe is a new Nazi superweapon. From night vision equipped Panther G tanks to super heavy Maus tank, Nazi Germany proved throughout the war to be the most innovative and somewhat crazy in designing combat vehicles, both wheeled and tracked. But one of these paper panzers was unlike all the others.
They were very interesting, huh? The Nazis were like, it's like they believed that, the end, that whatever ends they were trying to achieve, they were trying to achieve it by any means necessary and by any means possible, and they were willing to try anything and think way outside the box to accomplish their evil goals. Pretty interesting, huh?
A fortress of steel.
Holy crap.
Powered by submarine engines, with the main armament being an actual battleship gun turret. A 1,000-ton beast to crush everything in its way and be the backbone of the Nazi war machine.
How many miles per gallon does this thing get?
In its conquest of the world. This is the story of certain...
I guess you guys would do it kilometers per liter, huh? Probably gets about 1 meter per liter. 1 meter per liter, I'd say.
The craziest armored vehicle concept in history. One tank to rule them all. The P-1000 Ratte.
Did they actually build this? It's weird, because I don't know why I've never even considered a tank being that large. Because we have battleships that are much bigger than that. So it's like, yeah, I guess we could do that.
In 1941...
It seems kind of stupid, though, I'm not going to lie, just because why would you want that much resources, that tank, all your resources to be, centralized onto that one thing? Wouldn't it be better to make 5, smaller tanks? It is crazy, though. It's very interesting. And the reason I say wouldn't that be better is because then they can move in different directions. They can, they can surround things, and they can, if one breaks, then, the other 3 can still, or 4, however many I said, still can operate. Or if one is attacked and is destroyed, the other 4 can still operate,
The German war effort was looking for a new type of tank to combat the rise of Soviet armor. A tank that would be able to not only take out the best of the USSR, but also take hits without flinching. The study would eventually lead to the development of the 200-ton tank, the Panzer VIII.
200 ton!
But during the development, there was a rather interesting idea that the engineers couldn't quite shake. What if somehow they put a battleship on land? And
there we go.
All insane ideas during the Nazi reign, when it reached Hitler's desk, it was approved. On the 23rd of June 1942, the director of Krupp, Edward Grote, suggested that they could build a 1,000-ton tank. It would be dubbed a new category of tank called a Land Cruiser, or Landkreuzer, that would weld surplus battleship guns, have 25-centimeter thick armor, and be its own
25-centimeter thick armor. Not like that thick. Oh my gosh.
anti-aircraft gun platform. For comparison, one of the best armoured German tanks of the war, the Jagdtiger, only had frontal casemate armour of 250mm, and it's said to be never pierced frontally during its combat deployment in all of World War II.
Wow.
And thus the most insane tank project of the war, and perhaps even since then.
I will say, though, if you saw that thing coming toward you, I would just surrender. I would just surrender if I saw that thing come over the hill.
Was born. Trying to fund such a super project today,
So in that way, it's pretty good, I
would
guess.
be nearly impossible to finance, and for
It's like something out of Star Wars.
good reason. There are much better investments today, like fine art. But
What?
Nick, you ask me, I'm not a billionaire.
Oh, well, we fractionalized it, and you can invest in it. That's pretty cool, actually. Go check
To
out
profit,
his
does
link,
invest
guys.
anywhere. And you don't have to wait for these items to reach auction using the secondary market to
That's actually pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. I'm not endorsing it or anything because it's like an investing thing, you know, but it's interesting.
investors have already signed up. In fact, one of their latest offerings by famous street artist Banksy sold out in under 3 hours. If you want to take advantage and invest in some fine art, outside of my channel of course, then there is a wait list, but you can skip 1,000 tons. The P-1000 would have been huge. With a weight of 1,000 tons, it was 5 times bigger than even the heaviest Nazi tank of the war, the Panzer VIII. The tank would have been able to hold several motorcycles for scout missions, an infirmary, and had its own internal toilet system. To
Internal toilet.
carry all this weight around over the ground and not just sink into
Does a normal tank not have a toilet in it? What do you do if you have to poop and you're driving the tank into battle? Hop out and squat? That seems dangerous.
a crater, the mass would have been spread over 6 1.2 meter treads. Although even with all its effort, the weight of the tank
I did learn when I was driving the bus, the digital bus, that the buses in Germany have toilets on them.
would have obliterated any sort of ground from roads to farms to buildings. Its actual size was staggering as well, at 39 meters long gun to tail, 14 meters wide,
128 feet.
and 11 meters high, as big as a 4-story
36 feet high.
building. This heightened 2-meter ground
What? Wait, what? Oh my god, that's even bigger than I like. So this thing is bigger than my house. What?
clearance would mean that it would be able to
Way
cross
bigger.
most rivers without any issues. A good thing too, as bridges were out of the question.
Oh yeah.
To power the tank, it would have 2 diesel engines used in U-boats with 8,400 horsepower each, with a total of 16,000 horsepower required to move the gigantic steel monster. Snorkels located across the
How many
frame
meters per liter did it
would
get?
supply the engines with oxygen in the case of a river crossing. All of this was designed to carry its battleship-grade cannons. The primary weapon of this super tank would have been 2 280mm naval guns, the ones left over after the planned refitting of the Schornhorst-class battleships. They didn't want to use a 3-gun turret because with the middle gun removed, there would be more room for ammunition, sighting, and reducing the weight of the tank by 50 tons. The cannons would have fired the same shells used by the battleships,
Holy
or
crap.
would have used special armor-piercing rounds and high-explosive rounds for dissolving enemy armor or plowing up ground fortifications, respectively. But wait, there's more.
Wow, dude.
The tank had several other cannons on board, such as a single 128mm anti-tank cannon, most likely the Pak-44, or rather its subvariant, the KVK-44, used later in the Jagdtiger and Maus, and planned for the E-100 tank. Apart from that, there were 2 turrets on the back equipped with the same gun, and 4 turrets with either double 20 or 37mm anti-air
So
autocannons.
it's got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 turrets.
Or quad 20mm guns, along with several machine guns. It's not clear how many crew this tank would have required, but judging by the smaller 200-ton Panzer VIII Mass requiring 6, we can imagine that this larger brother would be 20 to 41 men, with a commander, multiple gunners and loaders, drivers, radio operators, engineers, and scouts, as well as a doctor for the infirmary. With all these guns, armor, and internal toilets, the tank itself would only have been able to move at a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour and have a range
It's really not that slow. I thought it would go slower.
with its fuel tanks of 190 kilometers.
That's pretty far. The fuel tanks must be freaking huge.
Even this, however, was highly unlikely and doubted from the start. Likely it also would have required a support convoy, escorts, and supply lines, much like we see today in an aircraft carrier group. To answer the question where it would have been deployed is quite obvious. The Eastern Front or Belgium, Netherlands, and Northern France, because of the simple fact that it could traverse mostly, if not strictly, across the flat terrain due to its weight and dimensions. The other important question is how it would have been deployed, and we can
It's just running over trees.
only speculate, but most likely Germans would use it as a mobile heavy artillery platform, using it to destroy enemy bunkers, fortresses, and heavily defended positions. The use of it against enemy armor is highly unlikely because of the very slow speed and agility, but it could have been used as a medium to long-range support for the armored units on the battlefield, with extremely accurate fire that could be coordinated during the assault.
It does seem like a plane is just better, though. As crazy as this is and as interesting as it is, it's like, why wouldn't you just put the guns on a plane? I guess a plane wouldn't really be able to carry cannons like that. That's probably the answer. But they can drop bombs.
However, having in mind that most German operations were defensive from 1943, the purpose of this super tank was questionable. Would this tank be the wonder weapon that would save Nazi Germany? By December 29th of 1942, a few preliminary designs of the tank had been
It just seems too absurd. Like, it's interesting, but you just think about it logistically, and it's just, like, absurd. It can't cross bridges. It's going to break all the roads it tries to drive down. It's going to get stuck, and then you have a $1 billion machine stuck in the mud.
Crafted. It had finally gotten a name, the Rat, likely because of the smaller brother was a mouse. It was preparing to enter prototype stage when some flaws were discovered. The fact that it couldn't use any roads, tunnels, or cross any bridges greatly hampered its actual operational feasibility. It would have not been able to invade cities, nor really protect any industrial targets. Moving around, it would have done more damage.
It's kind of stupid, to be honest. As cool as it is.
Than the enemy. With its speed only being 40 kilometers per hour, enemy armor could easily go around it, either encircling it to attack from weak spots or straight up bypass it completely. Its huge size and slow speed would have also made it very vulnerable to airstrikes, even with its 8 AA guns. The Allies would have seen it coming, impossible to hide after all, and a few bombers would make short work of it.
Right.
Lastly, thanks to its huge size, it would be complete.
That's the crazy thing about warfare to me, is just like the asymmetry of how easy it is to destroy something compared to build it. You know, just like the amount of work it would take to build this thing. Not that this was ever built, but, you know, like warships certainly were built and sunk. And it's just crazy to me, the amount of work and money and resources that go into build a giant warship, and then it's just sunk by some bombs or torpedoes. It's like, holy shit, what a waste of money and resources.
Completely reliant on its own engines and drivetrains. If the tank broke down, it would become a giant paperweight. There was no other way to drag it or tow or even put it on a rail.
Yeah, you can't tow that thing.
Speaking of, the tank couldn't be transported via trains
Right.
because of its size and weight. Perhaps the Breitsperbahn that was also envisioned by Nazi Germany would be able to carry this steel monster.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but I might have to look that up as well. The Nazis were freaking nuts, dude. Weren't they? Breitsbahn or something. Nazi train. That's what I'll say. I'm writing that down.
Another issue is that the Allies and Soviets would probably make it their top priority to get rid of these beasts. Just like the Bismarck, Tirpitz, and Yamato were hunted to kill at any cost, the same fate would await the Ratte on the battlefield, making it more of a nuisance to defend rather than the effective assault weapon. But you know for absolute fact that the story doesn't end here. Because instead of just cancelling the project, they thought, why not just make the tank bigger?
What?
500 tons bigger.
What?
I know you think by this point that these Nazi projects couldn't get any more ridiculous, but the Landkreuzer P-1500 monster was certainly up there. The P-1500 was going to be a self-propelled gun platform carrying a 800mm cannon with a range of 37 kilometers. It would have had 250mm hill front armor requiring 4 diesel engines and have over 100 crew members. It would essentially be the same as the famous Schwerve Gustav railway gun, but without the railway. It would be...
Is that a real thing? I don't know anything about these giant weapons.
Schwerve Gustav railway gun, but with...
Is that another Nazi thing? I'm looking it up real quick. Schwerve Gustav railway gun. Yeah, of course it was. What the actual hell? What the hell? So 2 were built maybe, and 1 was fired. Dude, what the heck? How have I never seen that? You know, it sucks that the Nazis are so evil and such bastards. Because they made some interesting things.
The railway. It would be incredibly slow, however, cruising around Europe at walking speed of 7 kilometers per hour. Whilst this project is popular, there isn't any real solid design work found, leading many to consider this either the work of a lone engineer or perhaps even a straight propaganda hoax. Needless to say, both this cannon tank and the P-1000 both suffered the flaw of being too big, too slow, and too vulnerable to Allied aircraft, an air advantage that the Allies had secured by 1943. As such, the Minister of Armament, Albert Speer, cancelled both projects and the world never got its super tank. If you want to see more Nazi content, then I
That sounds so bad. I want to see more Nazi content.
suggest you check out our other video about the insane Nazi railway, or perhaps the supposed Nazi experiments with UFO technology.
What? Huh? Huh? I don't even know what to say. That's freaking nuts, dude. What a crazy ass world we live in. I'm just thinking about what the world would be like if the Nazis had won, dude. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye.